Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Beta FPV Beta65X. This is a 2S brushless tiny whoop, and when I reviewed the Eachine UK65 and declared it my favourite tiny whoop so far, a lot of the comments said things like, try the Beta65, try the Beta75, they are better. So here we have it, and thanks to NJ Tech for putting me in contact with the Beta FPV company, and we have got it here. So the big question, is it better than the UK or US or the UR65? And the answer is, well, it kind of depends what you're after. You see, 2S isn't really needed in a whoop for indoors. So you then have to ask the question, well, what do you need that extra power for? Do you have a big space inside? So if you've got a big house, maybe there's not enough power here for this one. And this one comes with a really high camera angle, 35 degrees. It was too much for this house. I'll overlay some footage, and I was just staring at the ceiling the majority of the time because the camera angle was too high. Now, that being said, you can adjust the camera angle, sort of. So underneath this canopy here, so we've got two screws, there is a sort of rubber mount for the camera, and they have got various STL files you can download and 3D print your own camera mount for it. The thing is, when you spend like $129, that's how much this is, I was thinking, oh man, there must be a way that we can get a lower camera angle without having to have a 3D printer or something like that. So what I did was, I'll just remove this. So yeah, this comes with this here screwed to it, and the camera angle is fixed. But I found what you can actually do is you can take these two screws out and then you can tuck that behind there. Then when you put this back over the top, you can wedge the camera down to about 10 degrees, which is where I like to have it for doing FPV indoors, because I got a fairly small house, and the thing I like about whooping around is going through very tiny gaps, so you need a flat camera angle. You can't even see the ducts with the camera at 35 degrees. So yeah, out of the box, the 2S thing, it makes me think, well, it's either for a huge space like maybe a warehouse, or even for flying outdoors. And then I sort of question, you know, why do you want a tiny whoop for outdoors? I guess you could say for safety. So if you are fairly new and you're wanting to fly outside, but you're worried that you might hit someone or something and you don't want to do any damage, then these ducts are going to protect from that. So I would say that it is for that, flying outside or flying inside with a big area. Otherwise, I think it's going to be too fast for indoors. It's quite difficult to modulate the throttle as well, I found, when trying to get through tiny gaps, but we'll take a look at that later. Now, this one does have a VTX that is switchable, and it's a higher power than this guy. So this guy just 25 milliwatts. This guy uses smart audio, and it's also switchable up to 200 milliwatts. My only complaint is I don't like how the antenna is mounted. It's just backwards like this. I mean, I don't think it would have been difficult to just put a tiny hole at the top there. You're going to get more range with it sticking up like that, and that is the case pretty much, you know, with any kind of antenna that I've found that is linear. You want it upright, really, and we have that on this one. And yeah, the way that they have done this with the 2S is it's actually two 1S batteries. They are Beta FPV 260 milliamp batteries, and then you have two plugs here, and that's how it does the 2S. So yeah, it is 65 millimeters, so it is the same size as this. So, you know, if you fix the camera angle so it's pointing down, you're going to be able to get through the same size gaps as this. And yeah, it's got more power, and we'll take a look at the difference in power. Actually, I'll do a bit of a line of sight. Yeah, the motors are bigger motors, so they are a Beta FPV branded. They are an 802 17,500 kV, and these ones I think were, yeah, 19,000 for the 1S, but this one's still going to have more power. We've got the 4-blade here, and we've got an F4 flight controller. And something interesting about this one is it's actually using a separate receiver. So this one is a SPI based receiver, so it does full telemetry, full Lua scripts and all that, but it's limited to FreeSky and FlySky. This guy, they have a, I think it's an XM receiver, so not the XM Plus. So you're limited probably to about 80 to 100 meters of range. It's come with the RSSI flashed to it on the AUX 12, and it's set up really nicely actually. One thing that's good about this is a lot of questions I got was, can it do DSMX? This one, no, it can't do DSMX. This one does everything. It even does EU and FCC, different versions of FreeSky. It does FlySky, Futaba, DSMX, and you can get it as a plug and fly. So there are some benefits there. However, you know, it doesn't have the telemetry, which is something I really like about this one. So what is the difference in weight? Well, this guy is 40 grams with its 2 batteries, and then it's 28 grams without the batteries, which is the weight of this guy with its battery. So let's see what else you get in the box. We have got a QR code there to go to the instructions, although I went to this and it took me to a forum, didn't really see any instructions on there. And then we've got a spare set of props and a spare canopy they've actually sent me. I don't think this is part of the package, but maybe for just the review they have sent some spare frames here, which kind of suggests that they may break, although I have to say I do think they feel a bit stronger than this guy. Okay, so here we are in Betaflight. I haven't touched anything. This is how it came out of the box, and it does look like it is set up really nicely. So on the ports tab, we've got serial RX for the XM on the UART1, and we've got TBS Smart Audio on the UART6, so it's smart audio rather than tramp. So configuration tab, we've got D-Shot 600 here. It's got the motor idle at 4. I'd usually have it a little bit higher than that, but I'm gonna try this stock, so I'll leave it as that. We've got 8K on the PID loop frequency there, and the CPU load is very low, so that is fine. We've actually got 180 in the maximum arm angle, so be careful with that, because if you're sort of holding it at an angle whilst you're carrying it and accidentally hit the arm switch, then, you know, it could go off. However, it is a tiny whip, so it's, you know, you're not going to get your fingers caught or anything. We've got personalization in there for the craft name, and then this was all set up as S-Bus. Haven't touched anything, like I say. This is interesting though. We've got dynamic filter, anti-gravity, but we don't have air mode. They've put air mode on a switch, and that might be something to do with the way that air mode interacts with tiny whoops, but we'll take a look at that. And then we have got here the beacon, so yeah, it's using D-Shot commands here. It beeps when AUX channel is set up for a beeper. Right, so lost model alarm, but it hasn't got the RX lost on there. Right, so power and battery. Now this is interesting. See, current meter here, it's got it as virtual, so it's not actually got a current meter. They've set it as virtual. I read a little thing that said, oh, it's actually quite accurate, but the UK65 I think has got a proper current meter and is accurate. We have got the warning here at 3. That's a little bit high, I think. I would have that at 2.9. Same as this. Actually, do you know what? No, I'd have it at 2.8 and then just monitor when I'm going to land myself. Now, this, I did come in here and have a quick look, and I did change this. This was set to 4.2. I've changed it to 4.6 because we're using high volt batteries here. So yeah, just a small thing. So yeah, that needs to go to 4.6, and I would change that. But there's not a lot I would change in this setup here. Into the PID tuning, that's their PIDs, quite high values, aren't they? Those, they're 45 on the D, and I would change this to my rates. So I would go 0.8 here, 0.8 and 0.8 there, and I usually have about 10, and don't have any VBAT PID compensation, no smart feed forward or anything like that. So yeah, I'm going to save my rates there. So receiver, TAER, and we've got the aux set up for the RSSI. We don't have any RC deadband in there. I'd probably stick maybe 4 or 5 in there myself. Again, very small changes. So modes, we've got arming on the aux one. Then we have got acro over here, and then we've got angle here, and then horizon here, so that's both on the aux 2. And then if you come down here, so it's got air mode turned on in acro mode, but it's got air mode turned off in angle mode. I just wonder if it does something a little strange while it's flying like that, but I'm going to keep it like that. You know, they have set it up. Oh, and we also got turtle mode on the aux 3 as well, so be careful with that. And oddly enough, it hasn't got a beeper put in there, has it? So yeah, I've bound this with 8 channels, not 16, so I haven't got enough for a beeper. So yeah, you might want to bind it in 16 channel mode, or just, I mean, I would personally, this is what I would do, get rid of that and put the beeper in on the aux 3 just over here somewhere, because I don't use turtle mode, because turtle mode can, yeah, if something gets stuck in the props or something like that, you can blow an ESC. But maybe you'll want turtle mode for a whoop because you're going to be crashing into things, I don't know. Right, on-screen display there. Alright, the only thing I would turn off is the warnings, because I find it annoying. See, we have got that milliamp draw there on there, and I get rid of this thing potentially as well, but I'm going to keep it actually with a whoop. It can tell you where the center is, you know, if you're really trying to find, you know, get through the gaps. Actually, this isn't too bad. And yeah, so I think I would, yeah, that's how I would have it. So set up pretty nice. Let's just check the version, because it doesn't tell us the full version at the top there. So it's the Omnibus F4 SD. It does tell you up there, version 3.50. Okay, let's go for a line of sight with this guy. It's really just to see what the punch is like. So let's go full throttle. Oh yeah, definitely got plenty of punch. And acro mode here. Yeah, loads of punch for outside. Whether that's needed indoors, well, I don't know. What I want to do is compare the punch of this one against the UK 65, so I want to get it actually just a little bit out in the field and then give it punch. Yeah, I can tell already that this one's got the power over that one. You can still do all of your acro maneuvers. Pretty nice. Like forward flips. Gets away pretty quick though. also the UK65 in comparison, definitely less power, but I think more suited for indoors. So as I was trying to sort of figure out where this guy sits in where, you know, it's meant to be flown, I flew it outside, first of all, FPV, and this is with the 35-degree camera angle, so yeah, it's pretty quick, and you know, it flies pretty nice outside. I have to say, got plenty of power. There is just one thing though, and you'll see it here, when you go into sort of a dive or a sort of split S, what will happen is the ducts act like a brake or a wing or whatever you want to call it, and the model pitches back on its own, and you can see you can't quite do the same maneuvers that you can do with a 5-inch. So, you know, as long as you are aware of that, then you'll get a good experience with this guy outside. But if you just look, if I split S over, it'll pitch back on its own, or sort of yaw sometimes as well. And I don't think that's something you could tune out. I think you'd be stuck with that. I did a bit of a range test as well, and you can see we're getting a fair amount of breakup, and I'm putting that down to antenna placement. I know they've probably put the antenna there, you know, so that it doesn't get broken, but this is the 200 milliwatt setting there, and it was suffering with range. But as you can see, still able to thread the needle, and that current meter actually fairly accurate. As you can see, the battery has depleted there. So I decided to mess around with the camera angle, and you can see we're just getting the ducts in shot. So yeah, camera angle much lower, and I'm able to thread the needle a little bit better, and now it is flying very similar to the UK65. I think actually it flies a little bit smoother than the UK65. Actually, a little tip that my friend NJ gave me on that model is to set the ESC protocol to D-Shot 300, because there's a little hesitation on D-Shot 600. So if you've got that, guys, a little tip there to get it flying a little bit smoother. But yeah, I liked how it was flying inside. The only thing I'll say is I did kind of struggle a little bit with the throttle. You know, it's got way more throttle than it needs for indoors, so I kept finding that, you know, the smallest adjustment would bob the copter up and down, and you don't get that with the UK65, because, you know, you've got more movement that you can do on the stick because you haven't got as much power. And with more power as well, you also get more sort of turbulence, more downdraft. It's a slightly heavier model, and that can upset it when going through smaller gaps as well. But I was still able to go through all of the small gaps that I could with the UK65, so I was happy with that actually. And yeah, there's hardly any video noise coming through there, a little tiny bit I think, but that seems to go away, and no problems getting around the house with the 200 milliwatts. So I like that, and flight time, you know, 3.5 minutes, not bad at all either. So yes, impressed with it. So, which is my favourite? And I think the answer is, surprisingly, the Eachine UK US 65. Don't get me wrong, I like this guy. I think it flies a little bit smoother. However, this guy is, I think, $77. And this guy is $129. Yet with this guy, you are given a charger. It's actually the charger that I use to charge these two batteries. You are given 3 spare batteries with this guy. The camera angle is better on this one, and you can change it. And we also have got the VTX antenna coming out of the top, so we get great reception anyways, even though it's only 25 milliwatt. And also we have got the full telemetry. You can do Lua scripts and stuff like that. So for me, this one just clinches it. But if you're interested in this guy, it is a decent package. I will link it in the below. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.